Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Meg Heaton. I first met our guest today when she took over the leadership of the Hudson Chamber of Commerce back in 1996, and she came in the middle of a blizzard. She was the only one in the office that day, but she came for our interview, which I was grateful for, and she showed up for today's interview as well. My guest is Mary Claire Olson Potter, right? Mary Claire Olson Potter, who is the president of the Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau. Welcome.
Meg, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Mary Claire has held a variety of leadership positions with chambers throughout the area, including the Rochester Chamber of Commerce, St. Paul Chamber of Commerce, Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, and she's back in Hudson where she has lived for 22 years. So we're glad to have her with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And nobody else would have a better handle on how Hudson businesses are handling COVID-19 and the safer at home situation. Why don't you tell us how people are doing and what's up with the businesses in town?
Thank you, Meg. I think it's really a challenge. And when I'm making calls to chamber members, it really depends on the type of business that I'm reaching out to. So if you call realtors, some of them are very busy. You call manufacturing companies, and some of them are very busy because they are part of the supply chain for essential businesses, one that makes gears to create toilet paper. So we know that we want that to continue. Some have cut back, perhaps, maybe, so that they can allow more time for sanitizing and cleaning of the workstations prior to the next shift coming in. As you know, the retailers and the restaurants have been hit really hard with this. And so we worked with the restaurants for those that wanted to start curbside service. We made signage, worked with the city so that we could get cones and put signs out so people could easily go in and get out to get their food curbside service. But it is tough out there.
Yeah. What is the specific role the chamber's playing in this particular time?
So we're really working to ensure that businesses that can continue to work can continue to work. And so providing those vehicles to help them do that. And we provided a whole COVID-19 resource page on our website. So every day we're posting the latest information about small business loans, the PPP program, how do you create safer apart in your businesses for those that are up and running. So we're really trying to be a conduit of the resource information for members so they have one source to go to, because there is so much information out there and so many emails flying through every day. We're trying to be that one-stop shop, trying to encourage folks to support local. So support your local grocery stores, support your local restaurants, do the carry out, do the delivery that they're offering to help keep them moving forward. And now with the curbside being able to be available for the retailers, encourage folks to order online. We have a whole new program that Christensen Creative Studio has helped us develop, and they're executing, calling We Heart Hudson WI. So perhaps you've seen some of the posts that are on Facebook, but we have a whole materials of collateral coming out with sidewalk graphics, street banners, signage on the welcome side, just to show that community pride. And we take care of one another here in Hudson.
So that's the new campaign that you're rolling out?
Yes.
Good. When will we start seeing that stuff?
So the pieces are being designed by Christian Creative now, and then shortly we hope that like the street banners will go up, the sidewalk graphics with quotes from people talking about their stories. For example, I can't wait till I can walk downtown, have dinner at Pier 500, go to Kanoki's and get an ice cream cone and enjoy the pier out at Lakefront Park. And then we're going to do window clings too with some of those quotes and graphics. We have a whole sticker program coming forward with the Mother's Day promotion too. So just these things to show community pride, how we take care of one another, and how we're going to get through this together.
That's great. That sounds really good. I know that you have, your particular mode of operation is a lot of face-to-face contact with members. You usually always see members at least once or twice face-to-face every year, or not every couple of months. How's this impacting how you do your job?
It is really hard for an extrovert to be the only one in the office. The others are working remotely. And so I am reaching out via phone. And so my goal is to call members every day. I'm still working through the membership list to get that done, but to let them know we're a resource, how can we help them, and what do they need at this time. And part of it is how, as we plan for recovery, how can we help them plan for that? We have started doing some Zoom networking events. We did a Simply Connect via Zoom last week. We're going to do 2 of those in the morning and in the evening in May. People loved it. It was really fun. We did a 5 o'clock happy hour, and people literally were drinking their glasses of wine and beverages of their choice. And so we're going to do that. We also are scheduling a couple, all of our committee meetings now have gone Zoom, and board meetings and so forth. And then we also have some legislative updates coming up with Representative Zitterman and Senator Schachner that we're scheduling for next week, which will also be via Zoom, but now is a critical time to stay in touch with them too.
Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of, let's talk about tourism, how this is obviously impacting our tourism business as well, and what's going on with that?
There are not a lot of guests staying in, the lovely properties that we have here in Hudson. It's mainly construction workers, contractors, that sort, but their numbers are way, way down, which is really tough to see. So part of this We Heart Hudson campaign, another piece of that is Follow Your Heart to Hudson. And 2020 is the year of the car and regional travel. We believe that more people will travel closer distance. They may not be as interested to fly internationally or fly at all right now. So we are an ideal location for day trippers and those long weekends. And so we will build upon that Follow Your Heart to Hudson. When is it appropriate? When it is appropriate to invite people to visit Hudson. Right now we're promoting Stay Smart, Stay Apart, because that's what we need to do. But that is our campaign thinking. So really kind of, we, like all the businesses, are having to pivot and do things differently moving forward, I'd say for the rest of the year and perhaps into 2021.
Sure. Are you still getting requests from people outside about Hudson, about what's going on here? Or
we're still getting tourist requests. I think, part of the campaign is Dream Now, Travel Later. So think about where you want to travel when we can travel. I mean, I had a gentleman who called the other day, says, I need 2 city maps. I'm like, okay, I'll get those for you. So,
hey,
I know. So that's what we're working with the State Department of Tourism on. Their whole campaign is Dream Now, Travel Later. We're going to build upon that as we start to pivot, what our marketing plan was for 2020, which in this past month has taken a deep dive, kind of different.
But those are all good initiatives. I mean, that it's good to hear that the state is that you're working in concert with the state on these different promotions.
Yes.
Good. In terms of how this is directly, we've seen some closures of downtown businesses prior to the shutdown. Mm-hmm. When you look forward, how are you feeling about how this will overall impact us down the road, and will we be doing business differently moving forward?
I think based on what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, I think we'll be doing business differently for even once the restrictions continue to be slowly lifted. So I think as we think about some of our large events, like for example, we have a Good Morning Hudson with Mike back scheduled for June 24th. And would be perfect now to speak. Yeah. Last year we had to cut registration off at 100 people. So are we going to be able to have 100 people? Will we do it outside? Will we think differently about that event and where that can go? There are 2 businesses, as you mentioned, that have closed downtown. I think downtown potentially could look a little bit different once we work through all this. And so that's why we are really trying to be a resource for members to help them figure out how can they get loans, how can they continue to operate, and how can they come back and be open when those restrictions are lifted. Good.
And in terms of what the community maybe can do at large in terms of showing support, what are you suggesting or hoping to see?
You bet. The community has been great about supporting the local restaurants, during this time with delivery and curbside, which has been great. I encourage them to continue to do that. I would encourage folks to check out the chamber page as we're doing the whole Mother's Day promotion, and the retailers that are opening curbside and delivery service. They're all doing it safely, and they have to all be touchless exchanges. You know, you can't pay for it then, you have to pay online, but they're really trying to make it easy for the consumer to continue to support them by purchasing goods. As a part of our We Heart campaign, we're looking for stories from residents in the Hudson community about what do you miss currently with this Safer at Home? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about seeing open again? Because we would love to share those stories. And you also have a chance to win Chamber Bucks. If you submit your story, and we're having a drawing the end of April, and we're going to have 2 drawings in May, so you could win $100 that you can utilize at any of the chamber members in the Hudson area that you can use as cash.
How do people get these stories to you?
They can just email them to the Hudson Chamber, info@hudsonwi.org.
Okay. And I know there is a task force of sorts that you're a part of. What is that, where all of these initiatives are coming out of, or?
I'm a part of there's a community-wide task force that Bill Alms is leading, the 54016 task force, and there's a number of community leaders involved in this. The We Heart campaign came forward from Tricia Christensen, and she said, you know, I think we need a campaign. We need something positive. We need something that shows community pride and that those feel-good stories. And so I am so grateful to her and her team for coming forward with that. But that task force has some communication pieces coming out, is you're included in those too. And so I think it's really critical at this time, and it is hard, but that stay safe, stay apart is really, really important.
Yeah, it's kind of alarming when you see what's going on in some other states on beaches and in restaurants. Right. Whatever. So it looks like to me that people in Hudson are really taking this to heart and doing it the right way. So I
think and you've probably seen this post on Facebook, it's the post about stay apart now so that when we gather, no one is missing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good way to think about it. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet?
I think it really, so appreciative of the Hudson community and the support that they are giving to the businesses. And, we don't know how the next 6 months, how the next year is exactly going to look like. But, businesses are pivoting. They're marketing different than they are. The chamber is working differently than we are. And we are working really hard to be a resource and to be there for the business community, because we want those businesses to open up when those restrictions are lifted. And we know it's a long road ahead, but we know that businesses are resilient and they care about this community, and they really want to be open and up and running as soon as they can.
And by and large, from your point of view, the Hudson business community is behind the stay safe at home, and they're not necessarily disgruntled or angry about it?
I think what I've noticed, and I noticed this before the Easter weekend, as folks were getting a little more restless, and the calls and the emails that I'm responding to are people just asking questions. Businesses, can I do this? Can I do this? And, we as an organization really have to take our direction from the governor's, Safer at Home, the Wisconsin Department of Health, and the CDC guidelines. I mean, those are the parameters that we have to work in. We are not one to say what they can and cannot do, which is why on our chamber website under the COVID-19 resources, we list frequently asked questions. So it's just an easy resource for folks. But I can tell, and understandably so, people are getting anxious. These businesses are their livelihood. And this is not the plan that they had for 2020. So the questions are much more direct and in a little bit more anxiousness and frustration about what can I do so that I can keep my business viable. Because we know there are numbers out there of businesses that just will not make it.
Right.
And, closed 1 month, closed 2 months, how much longer can they survive?
And so that makes community support of these businesses in any way that we can so important.
Right. And I know the city is working hard too, the delay of utility bills, contact them and talk with them if you have a business of what some payment options are available. So I think really everyone is trying to figure out how to make this work and how to make those businesses survive and open up again. And I just have to say, some of the businesses that, the manufacturers that are buying lunch for their team of 75 from a local restaurant, that's a huge impact for a restaurant right now when they order box lunches or whatever. One of the manufacturers, GEA, bought 58 $25 chamber gift certificates to give to their team members to encourage them to support the local restaurants, buy your family lunch. Buddy's Bakery is bringing donuts and food to all the restaurants. So, I know I will miss someone in this listing, but the manufacturers that are bringing in lunch 3 times a week for their team members, that's phenomenal. And that's what's keeping some of those restaurants going and being able to have those employees work.
Well, it sounds like Hudson. It's good to hear that from you, and because those of us on the outside of the business community don't realize necessarily how tough it is, but also how many wonderful things people are doing. So we appreciate that you could fill us in on that, and we'll look forward to what's the name of the campaign again?
We Heart Hudson WI.
All right. And you can send your heartwarming stories about Hudson to info@chamber. Right?
HudsonWI.org.
Okay, good enough. Well, thank you very much. And as I know you were always concerned, your hair does look pretty good.
Well, I thank you, Meg. So we're not going to talk about the July 4th parade?
I hope we have the July 4th parade, at which point we will both be there to MC it. Otherwise, we might have to Zoom a parade somehow.
Well, we can pull out some of the old tapes.
The old tapes. Oh, some of the greatest hits, huh?
I know. Well, and Meg, thank you, because I know you are doing a lot of interviews with key leaders in the community. And so thank you for your time and your leadership on that, because now is the time to get those messages out.
Well, thank you. And I think we owe a big debt to the River Channel, Nate, and the River Channel folks, because they make us all look good. Thanks again, Mary Claire.
Thank you, Meg.
And thank you for joining us at Western Wisconsin Journal.